So thanks for joining us again with the Unlearning Curve. My name is Stuart Delony, and I'm joined with Karl the Great, Karl Forehand, and also JD Forehand. It's kind of, is that like the lesser? Is it the lesser Forehand or the greater? I don't know. It's still equally great.
Maybe I'll find a moniker like the Magnificent or.
I would say the sequel holds up.
I appreciate that.
In the Forehand, yeah. So listening
Take
to
whatever.
us.
We'll
If you've
take
got
whatever.
questions, if you want to reach out to us, theunlearningcurvepodcast at gmail.com is where we listen to you, and feel free to send it on. So I think that we were going to be talking about something in the first sesh today. And Karl, could it be Satan? Yeah. Relax, guy. Okay, so Karl, yes. You guys came here for the impressions. I know. That's why everyone came here. Yeah, if that's the case, you're fucked.
Sorry.
So, speaking of fucked, let's talk about the underworld. Let's talk about the Lord of Darkness, the place where we're all going to go, as the evangelicals tell us.
I think Satan would talk like RFK Jr. if to be honest. That's the best I can do, Teddy. You can fill in later.
Oh,
I think it's, but isn't like, at least what I learned as a young evangelical or whatever, we were non-denominational Christian, is that Satan will be like beautiful and attractive, right?
Yeah, that was the narrative.
He's the great deceiver and things like that. So that's always
the great shining star. Yes.
I'm not sure where that comes from. I could probably find a verse that explains that. No, JD is not the lesser of me. JD is better than me. He's an improved version. Mm-hmm. But he is lower on the screen right now. He needs to raise himself up here.
Low. I don't like to.
We've demoted his chair.
Yeah.
I always sit lower. It's a mess here.
Like it's humility.
Power differential.
It's humility. The rest of us, Karl just sits on his throne.
We like the power differential, or we're just too used to it.
Yeah. This does sound a lot like someone trying to usurp the throne in heaven. So yeah, Karl, do you know? Yeah, let's talk about like fear-based control and systems like that. This is fun.
So maybe can we start talking about puppies first, though? So you guys like me because I'm off.
I get my puppies over there.
So let's just say that a puppy's born, and a puppy, whether it's in a house or domesticated or whether it's born out in the wild, it has kind of the same things. It needs a food source. It also needs companionship. And whatever thoughts you have about, puppies or things born in the wild or not in civilization, they need a couple of things. Their brainstem helps them respond to dangers. When they're too curious about a lion and the lion slaps them in the head and they get a mark on their cheek, and that thing, then it gets their amygdala and the midbrain involved, and they create memories, much like we do, right? And then it's not really about cognition. It's not like some invisible force makes them evil. They respond to their environment. They respond by how they've evolved and how they've been conditioned, and then their socialization. And then if another dog is really mean to them, that's going to have an impact. It's going to create different memories, trauma, we might say, in their head. So kind of think about puppies, because our views about humans are so skewed, and especially when we talk about spiritual or religious things, it kind of gets way off track, right? Mm-hmm. And so you start from a deficit, just a misunderstanding. And I like to start kind of with a blank slate and say, well, what if that weren't true? And let's take all that out of the picture. Let's reevaluate it. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I've done. I got scared into walking down the aisle when I was 7 years old because they talked about hell and the devil. And I didn't think I'd done that much wrong, right? I might have told a little lie to my mom, or I might have stole some candy because I didn't know any better. But after that, I had real issues to deal with, like poverty, physical limitations. I was involved, I was in a toxic religion. I didn't even know what that was. But I knew that my parents, I knew that the system was authoritarian, so I stayed under the radar. But then you read things like Jonathan Edwards, it said, the God that holds you over the pit of hell, much as one holds a spider or some loathsome insect over the fire. And it's just that those kind of images and sermons and things came in and influenced the narrative. It's this narrative was that and I think more informed by the Apostle Paul than anything, and maybe Augustine later and some other church fathers, but not so much what Jesus said as just, this is the narrative. You're completely worthless. And to make it worse, there's this evil thing that's going to tempt you and try to attack you. And it's a roaring lion, and according to Peter. But it changed for me when I went to seminary, I think. I never really bought it too much, but then I was contemplating being a pastor and going to seminary. And so I studied pretty hard about that issue because I didn't really know that much. And the first thing you start with is the Garden of Eden. So the Garden of Eden has no reference to the Satan. That word in Hebrew, we were trying to figure out how to pronounce it earlier. It's kind of like what President Trump says to Satan in the South Park episodes is "Ha, Satan." Sometimes I think they pronounce it, the transliteration they pronounce without the T. And so find a good Jewish person that can really interpret and pronounce that for you, because I can't do it. But it just means adversary. It means in the Old Testament and in Genesis. So we see it in Genesis, but then we see it in Numbers when the Lord, I guess meaning God, stands as an adversary. They use that word against Balaam. And then we don't hear about it again till, of course, in the Garden of Eden, it's just the serpent. It's not the same word. It's just a snake, a talking snake. So it's an entertaining story, but it really doesn't satisfy anything for me because, first of all, Satan's the one or the serpent's the one telling the truth. And God seems to be lying because the things he says are not true. They don't die and so on. Anyway, but in the book of Job, it comes through. So it should be written Jobe, but so we can pronounce it correctly. It's not Job, but it's Job. But we get the understanding of this, thus Satan from there. The character is a heavenly prosecutor, subordinate to God, who tests human loyalty. So this figure is not an independent evil force like the Christian devil. Jewish thought offers views. It often views Satan as a metaphor for the Yetzer Hara, which is the evil inclination within a person. Mm-hmm. So they still have kind of that idea that we're evil inclined, but Satan wasn't really what it was in the Christian narrative. The Christian narrative becomes, you guys have questions, you can interrupt whenever you want. Over time and throughout various writers, the Christian narrative developed into viewing Satan or the devil, Diablos, as a cosmic adversary, a fallen angel, and the source of all evil, who tempts people to do wrong and rules the earthly realms. Peter exaggerated that by saying it's like a roaring lion that prowls around seeking whom it may devour. So he takes it even further. And the Apostle Paul introduces ideas, including that the adversary becomes a spiritual enemy, drawing from Jewish thought that he's also a prosecutor. So it's going to try your case and all that. Christianity kind of adopts the idea of Yom Kippur, of the scapegoat. And so we kind of latched on to the idea of a scapegoat. But then I said, in my view, it maintained the fear that they found helpful, instilling it in others to keep them loyal. Suppose we were unsure about our eternal destiny and afraid of prowling lion outside the camp. In that case, we'd be more committed to the established belief system and stay closer to home instead of wandering around and exploring other options. So that's kind of where I'm at. And I know, first of all, that the Church of Satan and the Satanic Temple, neither one recognize a deity or a person called the devil or Satan. They are political, mostly in nature, and maybe there's a few of them. I think the people that draw pentagrams and call themselves Satanists sometimes are just, non-connected teenagers sometimes that have a club that goes out in the woods and does some of those things. But I think just like the dog, so I'm going to tie my story back together. So just like the dog, it comes down to how well were you attached, the attachment that you got, the care you got. or the mistreatment you got and how you took that caused your trauma and caused you to move down certain paths. Since denouncing religion, since walking away, since not acknowledging an evil person that's out there somewhere, and really doubting the God presence and that narrative and that story. Since doing that, the roaring lion hasn't taken me over. I don't do worse things. I'm still a good person. I'm better than Stuart anyhow.
Oh.
Low bar, brother. Low bar.
But, and I've also been on paranormal investigations and things like that, just because I wanted to know. It's not my new religion. I haven't gone in a long time. It was interesting. It was kind of cool to see. And there were things that scared me because I was in the dark. First of all, I was in a strange place, and things were happening that I'd never seen. But being separated from religion and not just in fear of that, it helped me kind of be open-minded and pay attention and see what's really happening and see what's for my own conclusions and not have to live or die by those conclusions. But
isn't that exactly what Satan would want you to think in this place?
Yeah.
Like, I always like that logic that they would do, like, in the evangelical churches and stuff, too. Like, that's exactly where Satan would want you.
Satan would want you to test all things and keep what is good, wouldn't he?
Yeah. But it's just stupid rhetorical that they always throw back in it, that it doesn't answer anything with it. And Karl, you kept talking about, like, the dog metaphor, and for some reason I just kept going back to that gravel pit with Christy Gnome's dog Cricket. And how how he was able to see Satan firsthand really quickly before poof and was gone.
Yeah, the dog doesn't have the cognitive ability that we have, and I say that's
Cricket does not have that at all now.
And what I would say is the dog doesn't have the ability to create that narrative in his head.
Yeah.
His narrative is food. I need food. I want food. You seem like a danger to me. I don't want you around. I'll growl at you. Or if you come too close, I might bite you. But my big deal is I want food. And I want to be warm and those kind of things, those basic needs. And we're not dogs. We have the cognitive ability not only to invent gods and demons and so on, but also we have the ability to be even more severely traumatized and by things, because we care about things and care about people and care about ideas, and we want safety and we want some of the same things the dog wants. But we can also invent our invisible adversaries and our invisible gods and those kind of things. So
You'd mentioned about like Jewish thought and how they would handle Satan as more of a metaphor. But I also feel like that's like you mentioning that's a huge problem with a lot of American Christianity, is the idea that we can't see the difference between, like, is this a metaphor or is this absolutely literal? Yeah. And that can take you to really, 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 really different places. Yeah. If we're talking about things like this, that's why it takes us into the realm of almost like sci-fi and fantasy for a lot of folks in their heads. Yeah, absolutely. And it's easy to go there. And it just goes back to, like you said, scapegoating or escapism, or just passing the buck when I do something wrong. Oh, the devil made me do it.
I think it's a fear tactic and kind of like a moral panic as well. It's like you guys were saying, it stops you from investigating other things or questioning, because, like, I think probably, at least Dad, I know you're similar. Like, I think a lot of us probably initially, like, came to the faith or whatever because of fear, to some degree or another, whether that was the main driving reason or not. But, like, I know it was one of the main factors for me, because, like, what kid wants to fucking be tortured forever?
When people respond to my reading, a lot of times they say, "Oh, so you don't believe in hell?" And then they'll go, "Well, it all kind of falls apart without that." And I said, "Exactly. That was the first thing that I deconstructed and say, it's not that people don't do bad things. It's not that there's, things to be afraid of. There certainly are. We have a cognitive brain. It can be developed and it can have higher thoughts and better thoughts. And
also that evil does exist in the world.
Yeah.
There are things to be scared of. There are evil fucking people out there.
Yeah, and what I would say, there are people that have been abused. There are people that have been mistreated, didn't connect with their parents, didn't,
Mhm.
and those people tend to do bad things. And none of us are above that or exempt from that. It could happen to us. We could be that person.
Hmm.
I don't think it helps anything to have a scapegoat to blame it on. Like to say, well, everything good is that happens is God.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it easier for the people at the top.
I
It's really
confronted one of
sad.
my no, I confronted one of my friends the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and she was saying something kind of good and kind of beautiful, but she just plugged God's name in every
Mm.
3 or 4 words, it seemed like. And
Yeah.
people do the same thing with Satan and the devil. They'll just say, well, it's I'm trying to fight that influence, or he must be under the influence of Satan because he's got trauma and he acts out, or he's neurodivergent even, you know, and things
They would
like
never
that.
say any of those words.
Well, I know,
They'd
but
be like, it's safe
Too many
because
syllables.
it's exactly because it's just fucking evangelical Mad Libs. Satan, the devil, evil spirits.
And
They're just
it's
like
also
the,
reductive. It's also reductive about just the way the world is and how we even experience something, to where, like, if something good happens, it can't just be something good that we're enjoying as a part of this. Thank you, God. I've somehow just now taken myself out of this situation,
yeah,
and I'm not present. I'm not enjoying this.
yeah.
I've just taken a vacation in my brain for this. And it makes everything so simplistic and reductive. And again, I feel like these kind of things, like, it just kills, like, critical thought.
yeah, it makes me
It,
angry though.
observation, it kills all of these
It
things.
makes me angry
Agency is
because
lost. For sure.
I've
Yes.
spent at least 3 years recovering from a stroke, and I sometimes try to relay that to Laura, my wife. Just things hurt every day, and
Mm.
Mm.
it's a struggle every day. But it's also been 3 years of little by little, kind of climbing these mountains and falling back down. And someone says, "Praise God for that." I like want to punch them in the mouth,
Yeah.
because
No shit.
Mhm.
I didn't sense any supernatural intervention. It didn't, like, one day I wasn't walking and then I could walk. It was like day after day work,
Yeah.
Mm.
struggle, and trying to get it opened up a lot of my mental issues, my mental health issues. And so
Mm-hmm.
then I had to deal with those things too. And that's a long,
Mm.
hard process. But then for someone just to start inserting God in that equation,
Yeah.
that pisses me off.
Well, and it robs the humanity out of what you're doing. It robs,
Mhm.
like just the struggle, the what it's done to your story, how it's changed you,
Mm.
how you continue to struggle to move forward. Because again, life is hard and difficult, but, like, you have pushed yourself and you have continued to do stuff even if you didn't want to. And we're like, oh, the Lord sent you that stroke, Karl, to teach you, and he
I
was
would
doing it
punch.
to,
I
yeah.
would punch somebody in the mouth if they said that.
But that's essentially what, oh, look what the Lord's doing to these hardships, Karl. God must have done this.
Yeah.
And you're just like, that's if that's the case, that also sounds like Satan. Like
Yeah.
their version of Satan. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's give this to you just to give you some character. That's because life isn't hard enough as it is.
Yeah.
No, I
And
wouldn't.
Thanks,
I
you
wouldn't
God.
do
can
that
pull.
to any of my kids, even JD.
Well, you can.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't.
I mean, it's close for me, but not quite. But I mean, you always like. I always just when people talk about shit like that, I just pull that thread of just like, yeah, and like, it's really great how God is working in South Sudan, just killing those 14-year-old child soldiers that know nothing about God. Like that's so beautiful, right? Like, praise Him
Hmm.
for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
just bullshit. Like it doesn't work. Like if you take it out of like first world like white suburban problems, like it starts to fall apart pretty fucking quick.
Yeah.
But come on, JD, all the lessons being learned in Gaza. God
Yeah,
is just, yeah, it's so.
that's true. It's going to revolutionize it there.
The
That's
abuse
very true.
survivors have fought against that, I think, better than anybody else, because they
Yeah.
they are able to say from experience and just real confidently. They'll say things like, "Listen, get out of here with that. This was God's purpose, because there's nothing redeemable in a rape." And abuse survivors who still might be holding on to the Christian faith a little bit still say, in essence, "Fuck you if you're going to suggest that to me, that was God's purpose for my father to rape me."
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing redeemable in that, and that that can't be how a loving, good God works. It can't. Anyway, too serious.
And no, but you're right. Sometimes there isn't meaning. Sometimes life is hard and people do fucked up things. And we have to deal with the consequences of it. And where is the meaning in that? I don't know. But that is the difficulty in where we're at. I mean, I think life isn't about finding cheap meaning.
Yeah, let's face the issue. Why?
Yeah.
Why are they getting away with it? Why do they keep doing it? Let's talk about mental health issues and things where they could get better. Let's take away some of their power, so they can't exploit people and things like that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about why, but let's don't make let's don't make a scapegoat or just say, well, they can't help it. They're just men. Let's leave the power structures that enable that stuff in place. Let's don't report because it just ruined their career. And let's fight the battles that can be fought. Don't invent demons or God's purpose or any of that stuff that I just know from experience doesn't play out in the definition over the long haul. People say God has a purpose, God has a plan, yet 95% of the people sitting in the pews don't have an idea about what that is. And I think the other 5% are deceived. They're like, well, this is working out this way, so I'll jump on that narrative. But most of them don't have an idea what God's plan or purpose is. And they're not effectively navigating the struggles in their life because we have to invent deities and demons and everything out there that's, we can't understand, we can't verify, we can't see. It would be okay maybe to say, well, this is kind of my narrative of God, but also I'm going to face reality at the same time, and say there's things that are tough and I'm going to have to work through them and I'm going to have to do better. And it's going to be hard. We need more of that language than just the escapism of, well, praise God for this. Well, that didn't work out. It's my fault. Or the devil made me do it or whatever.
Yeah. And not all hardship is redemptive.
Right.
I mean, sometimes it's just the shit
Very
that's
destructive.
Yeah, that's what you have to go to. You said something too, Karl, that I loved earlier, and I want to play with this a bit because when you start messing with hell with a lot of Christians, it seems to like make the whole gospel fall apart instantly, which is kind of insane. So like in my mind, I'm always going like, so the teachings of Christ, the things Jesus told us to do, our ethics, kind of how to walk out into the world. How does that not still work if the devil and hell aren't real? Like, why are those essential ingredients to that part of the story? I mean, other than this is just the lie that we continue to perpetuate, and if you disagree with it, you're a heretic. I don't know.
And hell, from Jesus' standpoint, was one of the weakest things that you can prove. It was very clearly a garbage dump, and his metaphors and things like that. It's just one of the weakest things, and I don't think it's necessary. It is necessary if you want to grow a big ministry and you want to attract large crowds of people. You need that fear factor. Billy Graham found that out. He was also
even before that, you're talking about sinners in the hands of the angry God and things like that. That's like the peak of that like American brand of like big tent revival, and that's where they that's where they figured out that fear stuff works really well.
Hellfire and brimstone.
And all the speaking in tongues and dancing and handling snakes and all the theatrics. The theatrics and the fear are.
Yeah, they found it in the Pray the Gay Away movement and stuff. Yeah. Just, speakers or witnesses or whatever that were telling their story just found out it works better when insurance salesmen know that. Anybody that's trying to sell you something knows that they can get you to be afraid. Afraid of not fitting in, afraid of not having the right stuff, or afraid of something bad's going to happen. All that stuff works better with fear. Yeah.
Confusion.
Absolutely.
So in a sense, aren't those that are pushing these hell narratives and devil stuff and trying to scare us all that, aren't they devils themselves for doing that? I mean, it just kind of feels like we're like in a perpetuating cycle. Like, believe in the devil, but also believe what I tell you.
I think Greg Locke, who just doesn't understand, he'll go into a spirit shop, or I don't know what the official name for it is, where you have rocks and incense and sage and all those things. He'll walk in there and just, in his mind, sage is just evil. But it's just a
Just the
weed.
plant itself.
It's a weed that,
Get out.
that native people and so on have used in their ceremonies and so on. It creates smoke. I like it because it seems relaxing to me for some reason.
But wait, Greg Locke's issue, you just said native people. Done. That's it. That's
that can't be right. That's a Jezebel or a demon.
This doesn't sound like a white person's plant.
And he called his own wife a demon, or at least her Bible study members were demons because that they're devil worshippers that needed to be cast out. Anyway.
So yeah, but like, can we do this? Like, and I know that's part of like what you're talking about too in the article that we're referencing, is that, I mean, can we morally thrive still without the spiritual carrot and stick?
I think so. And you're kind of tying it to behaviorism, and how we do that in schools and things like that. I think we can. And this series of articles, blogs, whatever, is called A Decade of Deconstruction. So we've been at it about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, so where did that come? Maybe a couple years in, 8 years ago, we've kind of been walking this path. And all I can say is that we're not more evil. We're not, more despicable. We don't hurt people. We don't, we're at least as moral as we were, maybe better, because our mental health is improving. We're working on that. So maybe we're even better people. Maybe we're not as closed off or whatever as before. So I think for me, it was real scary at first because I would go, okay, well, I've never not gone to church. Well, I've never, announced that because I really didn't believe in hell much at all. Even, I don't know, JD, if you can remember if I ever preached about hell or anything. I mostly said it's separation from God. And because it was just so hard for me to buy all along. But then I never outwardly said, well, there's no devil. I don't think there's a devil. I don't believe in him. And I certainly don't worship him like evangelicals do. Mm-hmm. I don't bring him up every 5 seconds. And you just kind of take steps out and go, hey, it's okay. My world didn't fall apart. The lion didn't attack me, and so on. Just like any other. Winston, my dog, is making weird noises down there. He might be possessed, right?
Maybe the devil.
Again, we're back here again, Karl. You've led us astray.
Yeah, I think what I say, so let's think. So I think I said in this article, suppose you're questioning the idea of going to church. The person in Taiwan, I can't remember her name right now, but she's the unfundamentalist, parenting unfundamentalist, Cindy Wong Grant. So she encourages take a year off from church. Just don't go to church for a while. And so what I encourage people to do is take some time off from church and just be aware. If God is God and he's your God, then he'll protect you. Mm-hmm. You're not going to, something weird's not going to happen to you. But just see if you really need that after you kind of break the addiction. Stay away for a while. If you still believe in God, ask God to protect you. And if he's who he says he is, he will. And he won't let you be overcome. So, and then you find out, after 6 months, nothing weird happened. In fact, some things are better. And I'm able to see more clearly without all the influence and the conditioning and so on. So does it make any sense?
New glasses.
Mm-hmm.
New glasses, right?
Yeah.
Got my old shirt out here. It's twice as warm as what I thought it was. Probably Satan.
Yeah. One thing I always wonder with this too, especially with us growing up around worrying about demons and Satan and all of this, is the other one of the boogeymans that boogeymans, boogie people, boogie thems, I don't know. Boogie persons, thank you. One of the boogie persons that we were given was all this about magic, the occult, all of these other things that are ooh, those are superstitions, ooh, those are bad, and all of this. But isn't that the kind of the pot calling the kettle fucking black? There's no difference. We just have different names, or oh no, but our magic, our occultism is fine, but this other stuff is bad. What am I missing?
Well, because it's ours, so it's good. It's the end group.
Oh, okay.
Stuart,
it's the marketing.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think if somehow we could get a reasonable, kind of a reasonable assessment of caution what's the word that Paul used in the New Testament? Circumspectly. We can walk circumspectly, aware, awake, and so on. Be aware, be cautious of things, but not let
Mindful, perhaps.
fear,
Mhm.
yeah, but not let fear control you and
Yeah.
be the thing that you think about first. Nothing wrong with saying, if you're a woman, I'm a woman, I got to walk to my car. What are the reasonable assumptions about that? And what do I need to be careful about?
Mhm.
And so on. There's nothing wrong with that. But when we're deathly afraid of anything, it just hinders us. We can't fully flourish as human
Mhm.
beings in that mode. We're just in survival mode. We're in root brain instead of our cognitive brain.
But doesn't that keeps us compliant though if we're constantly in this place
It
and we're
does.
constantly
Yeah,
needing to like suckle from the teat of whoever's giving us information every
sure.
week on Sunday, and
It's a
that's how we
cold
assuage
tactic.
the fears. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cold tactic
But
is just keep your cortisol levels high, keep you stressed out. Usually cut your food benefits like they're cutting SNAP benefits,
Gosh.
as
Yeah.
Dad mentioned earlier. So yeah,
yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah. And once you're in that, then if you're that dependent, if you're that submissive, then they can say anything, they can believe anything, they can do anything, and get away with it. It's just easier for them, much harder for you.
Amen.
Just pass the
Okay.
plate.